Hello and welcome to Matchday 18 of Championship Predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me as always is Daniel Cody and Charlie Best. Let's have a quick review of Matchday 17, the midweek edition of Championship Football. It was a good week for me. It was all right for Daniel Cody, and Charlie was brilliant for the first 60 minutes on Tuesday, and he went horribly wrong after that. So Daniel Cody got a perfect score for Watford versus Rotherham. I got two perfect scores for Watford versus Rotherham and Millwall versus Queen's Park Rangers. And unfortunately, Charlie did not get a perfect score, which is very harsh. It was a travesty. So overall, the point score was I got 9 points, Cody gets 5, and Charlie just the 3. So overall, I'm on 117 at the top of the table with 20 perfect scores now. Daniel Cody, is on 108 with 14 perfect scores. And Charlie, with those 3 points, moves up to triple figures. He's now on 100. He's got his cricket bat out. So let's start with match day 18. These games are all on Saturday. Can you believe it? So we start with the first one. It's a big one. It's the South Wales derby. It's Cardiff versus Swansea. Cardiff, Sean Morrison had a game to remember on Tuesday.
It was eventful, wasn't it? But it came out on the right side in the end, so I don't think he'll really care. Ruined all of our predictions, didn't it? So that's happy days. These two teams are in good form, and I don't really know how to go about it. You have to assume, if it was any other game, I'd pick Cardiff to win because they've won 4 in a row. They look on fire now. They're beating good sides as well, and they're beating poorer sides very well. In a derby, anything can change, and that's what's tempting me into going for a draw. I've just got a feeling this game's going to be chaos. So for no reason whatsoever, I'm going to go for 2-2, even though everything's telling me Cardiff should win.
Charlie?
Yeah, it's tough because, to be honest, Swansea are slightly weaker at home. Not that they're struggling, but do you know what I mean? They're a bit better at home. Cardiff won the last 2 at home, so there is a bit of home momentum in that front. This is tough. I was too conservative. That was my problem. That's why I got 12 points up to an hour and then ended up with 3 by the end of the weekend, or by the end of the midweek. So I'm going to go a bit more bold on the scores this week. I think Cardiff are going to win. I think there'll be 3 goals in it, 2-1 to Cardiff City.
This is a really hard one to call, to be honest. As you said, it's a derby. Swansea got that point against Bournemouth, which you could say is a good point against them, but it's at home, so they didn't score. Cardiff, brilliant result at Stoke. Come from behind. Obviously, could have gone 2-0 down from the penalty, which they missed. We'll go on to Stoke later. But it bounced back very, very well. Oh, this is too good side. I can't pick a team out of this one. So they'll go for the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1.
I knew you were going to do that before you started.
Let's move on to the next game. It's at St Andrews. It's Birmingham City versus Watford. Birmingham surprised the pack this midweek by beating Reading 2-1 away from home. But Charlie, Birmingham only had 18% possession in their own box, as in from a Reading attack. So it proves that Karanka's defensive finally worked for him.
Yeah, Karanka is back, which is a bit annoying because I didn't back them. But I don't know. I feel like I might have to this week. It's great doing that, and I think the difference is now they're a bit more purposeful with it as well. I would use the word pragmatic, but apparently that means that they're a bit boring, which I'm not saying they are. So purposeful is a better word to use. So it shows that they've got that it's starting to click. I think that it is tough because they still don't score loads, and that's always going to be a difficulty. Watford away are not looking great, if I'm honest. Away from home, they're not looking too strong. And, I know they beat Rotherham the other day, but, Rotherham have been, woeful away from home, so I wouldn't read too much into that. Up to that point, Watford were struggling. So I can't believe I'm doing this because this backfired when I did Forest Norwich the other day. I think I have to back Birmingham. Watford haven't been free-flowing up front. I'd have expected them with the firepower they've got to maybe put a few more past Rotherham. So I can't see them getting a goal. Still, I go for the obvious 1-0, but I did that before and then the game ends up like 3-1 and I end up looking stupid. So I'm going to go for Birmingham to win. Is there going to be goals? No, 1-0. Aya Karanka. He loves it. 1-0.
The thing is, we say there's bankers in the Championship. And there never are bankers. And for anyone who predicts this will be a banker for Watford is wrong.
Watford win 4-0 after that.
Maybe. I don't know. But I'm not going to go for Watford win. And I'm not going to go for Birmingham win either. Obviously, Birmingham would be really, really delighted with that 2-1 win. And they saved a penalty as well. Etheridge saved a penalty. And obviously hanging on with 10 men, so absolutely superb from them. Watford, just obviously the casual 2-0 win against Rotherham. Rotherham obviously on poor form at the moment. Yeah, as you said, Watford not great away from home. And they've drawn a lot recently away from home. So I'm going to go with that scoreline as well, with the Championship favourite scoreline of 1-1. Thanks.
Very similar thought process to you, but because Watford's last 2 away draws were 0-0, and the last draw Birmingham had at home was 0-0, I'm going to go for 0-0 because I can't see any goals in it. Both sides flattering to deceive up front, and the rest of the reasons you've already listed.
Fantastic. Moving on. Bournemouth, they are playing Huddersfield at the Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth obviously had a 0-0 draw with Swansea, but Codes, 3 home wins in a row now for Huddersfield. Can they make those away wins count now?
I'd suggest not, because the last 2 away games they haven't scored, and then the one they did score before that, they let in 4 and still managed to lose when they scored 3. So you'd have to suggest that they're going to be one of the sides that are better at home. Bournemouth at home, they got done by Preston last time, but we all know about Preston on the road. Then they beat Forest, who can't score or hit a barn door. So I just don't know. You wouldn't have expected a month ago this to be a hard one to predict, but it has been perilous for me. Despite that, I'm going for Bournemouth to win it. I think they'll bounce back at home and they are going to win comfortable 2-0.
I did have 2-0 to Bournemouth to start with. I'm going to change my mind because I can see this being a really tight game as well. I don't think it'll be comfortable with what you said, but I still think Bournemouth will win, but I'm going to go for 2-1 now to Bournemouth. Charlie?
It's tough. Yeah, because if I'm honest, Bournemouth do score more at home. They've got quite a good goal difference at home. I think we're all agreed in possibly a Bournemouth win. But how many goals? I mean, Huddersfield do let in quite a few away from home in a negative goal difference. Bournemouth, third highest goal scorers in the league. Third highest goal difference, in the league. So I've got to go for a fairly heavy Bournemouth win. It's whether I think Huddersfield will get one at the other end. I don't think they will. I think Bournemouth have been quite tight at the back. 3-0 Bournemouth.
Up next, it's Blackburn Rovers versus Norwich. Norwich picked up a late victory over Nottingham Forest. Blackburn, they lost to Bristol City. You two were completely wrong on a Bristol City defeat, as someone in the comment section has quite rightly pointed out. Charlie, that inconsistency of Blackburn, what do you expect from Blackburn?
You say that, they were fairly consistent. There was a period of probably about 4, maybe 5 games where they were actually consistent. They sort of went with the form table, They got draws against the better teams. They beat, other teams around them. And then they just sort of do a Blackburn and just sort of, I don't want to say implode, that's the wrong word, but just, I don't know, just flatter to deceive a little bit. However, Bristol City have got a good pedigree in their team. So I know they haven't been in the best form, but I suppose it does turn very quickly for some sides, and maybe Bristol City is one of them. So losing to them is not a disaster. Had it been another maybe teams further down the league, I'd have been a bit more like, oh, this is inconsistent Blackburn again. Norwich, on the flip side of it, they don't seem convincing, but they're still grinding out wins. I'll be honest, against Forest, probably, I know you look at the stats, it was a bit more heavily Norwich, but I would expect them to maybe beating them by more if they were that heavily on top. The game before was a narrow victory again. So I don't know. That's the sort of form that gets you to the top of the table. But will they keep it up against a Blackburn side that are a bit more potent? And I don't know. I can't split them. If I'm honest, I can't split them. So I'm going to have to go for a draw. It's whether I go boring for the Championship's favourite scoreline or I go a bit more bold. Both teams like to score, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for a 2-2.
Thanks.
Well, Norwich are back to the top of the table. They're starting to get senior players back. So they actually had, I think, 5 senior players on the bench against Forest. And gradually that will continue to increase. Blackburn, as Charlie said, they're basically becoming an enigma at this point, and I don't really know how to describe them other than that. They've got firepower, but then they didn't score against Bristol City. At home, though. At home, they've won their last 2-1. Norwich away from home, they lost at Luton and beat Stoke. Oh, right, I don't know. Championship's favourite scoreline. 1-1.
I think we are going to have to agree on the same result, I think, on a draw. I think it's the first time ever we all three of us been at the draw. Do I go for 1-1 or 2-2 or 3-3 as well? Oh, no. Do I go for that? No. Sorry, Codes. 1-1. Up next, it's Derby versus Stoke at Pride Park. Derby, 4 games unbeaten now, Codes, under Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, and they're looking defensively solid. The problem, I guess, at Brentford, not so much against the side, is that there were, I believe, no shots on target for them.
But either team, I think it was.
No shots on target for either side. Brentford, though, had 2 up-to-stat registered 2 clear-cut chances, which is something I love to look at.
Well, they did miss an open goal.
They did miss an open goal. So, let's be honest, it's unbeaten just for Derby, but they're picking up points. And when you're down there, that's what they need. You see people like Forest at the moment struggling, their rivals, of course. To see Derby then picking up results. Rooney's doing as much as you could ask of him. Stoke, I just don't know. I mean, they missed a penalty. They should have got something out of that Cardiff game. On the road, they're a bit weaker, though. Charlie always says it. And I just don't know, because Derby are crap at home and Stoke are rubbish on the road. So, do you know what? I can only see this being a boring game again. And I've gone for loads of them, but I think it's going to be 0-0, my second of the day.
Yeah, I can see it's been a boring game, to be honest. But I'm not going to go for a draw. I'm worried about set pieces for Derby to concede I don't see anything special in this game. I'm going to go for 1-0 Stoke. Charlie?
I think I'm going to go for a Stoke win. I do know what you mean. I think that hopefully this will give them a bit of a kick up the backside from the loss that they had to, which was unexpected, to be brutally honest. Away from home, they are a bit weaker. I'm tempted to go for 1-0. I don't really see where the goals. I will say in Rooney's defence, he has shored them up at the back. In terms of goals, they still don't look like too like they're going to score. I'm going to go for 2-0 on the basis that it's not Cobby and Craig score, but more over. And I've said this so often. Stoke hopefully get an early one. Derby comes in the last 10 minutes. I don't know, bomb everyone forward for a corner. Stoke hit him on the counter-attack. Classic Michael O'Neill. 2-0 Bosch. 3 points off we go.
Up next at Kenilworth Road, it's Luton Town versus Preston. Cody, Luton, all right, it finished 0-0, but 2 positives is that, 1, they kept a clean sheet, and 2, there's another point on the board.
Absolutely. Most importantly, forget the scoreline and what's going to happen. I'm going, Craig. And that's what
you're going as well.
I'm going.
You're going. You're going to the game.
I'm looking forward to it. But not only am I seeing my favourite club at home again, I'm seeing one of the best teams in the world away from home, apart from their last couple of away games. I mean, Bournemouth, they were great. Watford, they were awful. I don't know. Preston are starting to get results at home. I mean, they battered Borough in midweek. What on earth happened there? Luton can't score goals at the moment. They're a little bit depleted, particularly defensively, but I guess that's why he's protecting the back 4 or back 5 more. So I'm going to go for a Preston win because I really can't see beyond it if they're at their best on the road. And I hate to say this as a Luton fan and as someone who's going, the fans might make a difference, but I don't think it'll be this week. I said that against Norwich, famous last words, but Preston will win 3-1 and I'll be very sad at that.
Yeah, it depends which Preston turn up. I think they were brilliant on Wednesday against Middlesbrough. Took their chances. Luton, on the other hand, obviously it's at home with a crowd. It does make a difference. But Scott Sinclair's now back on form, which is pleasing to see because he's a very good player. Not gonna lie. I don't think Luton will win this one. I don't think Preston will win this one. So for the 4th time this match day, I'm going to go for the Championship favourite scoreline on 1-1. Charlie?
Do you know what? I've made this mistake of backing Luton at home too many times and it blows up in my face. So I can't. It goes against everything that I can deal with at the minute. And I'm finding this game difficult enough as it is without Luton breaking my heart every week. So I'm going to have to go for a Preston away win. I don't see Preston necessarily getting 3 because I think Luton, like you say, might be a bit more defensive. So I think Preston will win 2-1. But I think it could go that, there might be a couple of extra chances for Preston and maybe just not on form. It wouldn't surprise me if it was possibly 4-2 or something crazy like that. That's the sort of form that Preston are in. I'm going to play safe, which goes against what happened last match day, but 2-1 Preston. But it wouldn't amaze me if there was more goals in it, to be honest.
Up next on the Riverside is Middlesbrough versus Millwall. Charlie, after their 10-match unbeaten run for Middlesbrough, it's now 4 defeats and 6.
Well, more worryingly away as well. I agree with what Dan was saying upon reflection. The whole deflection of, the Stoke change rooms and all of that took away from probably a very poor performance. I genuinely don't know what to say about the game against Preston. I know we said that Preston are that enigma, but even then, I know they're not great at home, but to put 3 past them without reply as well, it just seemed very, very strange. It's very un-Warnock-like, if I'm being brutally honest. That's a bit that surprised me. Millwall are not a bad team in terms of being away from home. This is going to be a gritty game. I think that's one thing you can guarantee. It's going to be very physical, very sort of dogged. But Borough are at home and they do have a better form for that. I don't think, though, I think this is going to rock them, those last 2 results. So I think it'll be a draw. It's going to be my first one of the day. I think I'm going to have to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline because Millwall are draw specialists, particularly away from home. So I'm going to have to go for 1-1. I do apologise. That feels a bit of a cop-out.
Thanks.
I'm going to go for a Borough win purely because I know you mentioned their form, but bar the Norwich game, which was bizarre with the penalty slip and all of that, they have been in good form at home still. So I'm going to stick with Borough to nick it at home. Millwall haven't won in eons. So let's stick with Borough to nick it. It's only going to be tight because Borough have gone back to not scoring now. So we're going to go for 1-0 to Middlesbrough. I
agree on a win for Middlesbrough. I'm not going to go for 1-0. I don't know why Middlesbrough just don't... They're going to run for scoring goals and then they stop. I don't understand because they've got 2 really good strikers in Assombalonga and Fletcher. And then you've got Duncan Watmore, who's had injury problems over the last few years, but he's a very good player. But I'm backing them to score. Millwall have just been absolutely hopeless last 5-6 games. That run is going to continue for Millwall. So 2-0, I'm going for Middlesbrough in this game. Up next, it's Nottingham Forest versus Brentford at the City Ground. Codes, positives for Nottingham Forest. They scored a goal. Negatives, they still didn't win.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I've said this for a couple of weeks now. I do genuinely worry for how quickly Chris Hughton might be under pressure because you can dress it up however you like, and they have played well in some of those games. They've lost 5 of their last 6 matches. And in the Championship, when you take over a side already in the bottom 3, to then not pick up points is a big problem. It was against the Norwich side, who are top of the table, who played well. And Brentford didn't have a shot on target. So, I mean, the obvious score would be 0-0 here, wouldn't it? But do you know what? I'm taking a Charlie Betts approach to this, and I'm happy to lose 3 points. Brentford haven't scored more than 2 in any of their last 6. Nottingham Forest, that was their first goal in their last 6. So who else in the world is going to go for 3-2 to Brentford?
I'm
Tony, 1-0. Simple. Charlie?
I don't know. I keep banging on about this, but there has to be a week when Forest turn. It has to happen. Is it going to be this week? I do think, do you know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm probably similar to Dan and writing off 3 points here, but stuff it. I think Forest might nick it. And the reason I'm saying that, just go with me for a second. I know that they've been a bit of a poor run for them. It has to turn eventually. And Brentford do struggle in these games where they're expected to get a win. Okay. And for me, they proved that towards the end of last season. A few times this year, they've rocked a bit when there's been a bit of pressure on them and there's been an expectation on them. Bold, 2-0, Nottingham Forest.
Up next, it's the Battle of the Hoops. Queen's Park Rangers versus Reading at the King Prince Foundation Stadium. Queen's Park Rangers, they got that point against Millwall. Reading lost at home to Birmingham. This could actually go either way. Which Reading turn up? The good Reading that have been playing some fantastic football, or the bad Reading where they just concede goals, like Charlie said back in Matchday 6. Queen's Park Rangers, on the other hand, they were good against Millwall, but then they were rubbish before that, and they were rubbish before that again. Actually, they were unlucky against Bristol. I'll take that back. I don't see much in this. I'm going to go for 2-1 Reading. Charlie?
I can't split them. QPR seem a bit more consistent at home, but still, I don't see this free-flowing, the way that we saw them last year where they'd score 4 and let him free. I'm not really seeing that this year. And I don't like doing it because it does feel a bit like a bottle job. But I think I'm going to have to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline because I can't split them. So I'm going to have to go for 1-1.
Coates?
I did, to be fair, have the same scoreline as you, down, because Reading, all right, they were poor against Birmingham, but those games where they tend to concede a lot of goals are normally on TV, and this one isn't televised. So I'm going on that being the main strength. QPR, I know they ended the rot at Millwall, but there were 3 defeats in a row before that, not scoring more than 1 a game. It's whether I go for 2-1, stick with the scoreline I had, or do I go 2-0? Let's go 2-0 because, do you know what? I'd rather lose to you by 20 points than 1.
Up next at New York Stadium, it's Rotherham versus Bristol City. Bristol City won. Just so the guy in the comment just know that they won against Blackburn. Rotherham, 4 defeats and 5 now codes, but they're somehow still not in the relegation zone.
Well, it was a good start at home, wasn't it, that stopped them? I do just want to say on the Bristol City thing, they have become the most inconsistent team in the league. Win, draw, loss, win, loss, win. They're impossible to predict. I'm going on the pattern that they don't win 2 games in a row, so they can't win this one, even though Rotherham are in disarray. We've said for a couple of weeks we're all a bit worried about them, and they're hemorrhaging goals. It's not the fact that they're losing. They're letting in 2 every time. They're letting in 3 occasionally. They're not really scoring many, only 1 in the last 3. But despite that, they're somehow going to claw a 2-2 draw out of this. And I'm banking on a controversial late penalty somewhere.
I feel for them. I really do. I'm not going to go for them to score. Bristol City, they're good Wednesday. I'm going to go for 2-0 Bristol City. Charlie?
I completely agree with what you're saying about Bristol City. They've picked up 16 points in the last 8 games away from home, though. So they are definitely a much better away from home side. So I'm going to have to back the numbers on that part. But Rotherham were a little bit stronger at home. They've been unfortunate in the last few games, been away from home, and that's why they've maybe slipped the way that they have. So I don't think there's going to be a lot in it. I think there'll be a goal in it, but both teams do score goals. I'm going to have to go back Bristol City away from home 2-1. This is going to be really interesting because there's literally a goal between all 3 of our scores.
That is true. Up next is a second Yorkshire derby in the space of 3 days for Sheffield Wednesday. They're at home this time to Barnsley. Pulis still hasn't won a game, Charlie.
No, I don't know. Again, I said this about Forest, but it has to turn. I mean, Huddersfield at home are stronger, so you can't sort of take. Not saying you can't read too much into that, but Huddersfield beat a lot of teams away at home. So I don't know. I think this is the time it turns. I think I have to back Wednesday at home. I think Pulis is going to be a bit more suited to a more expansive team like Barnsley, who play free-flowing football, and I'm hoping they'll pick them off a little bit of a sucker punch sort of approach to it. Barnsley aren't great away from home, only won 2 in the last 5, so I'm going to have to go for a Sheffield Wednesday win. And it annoys me because I'm going to have to go for a score that I've gone for in the last few weeks and it hasn't really come off. But I think it'll just be a very bad game, if I'm honest, and a 1-0 Sheffield Wednesday win.
Codes.
I'm similar to Charlie. You just feel like there's got to be one eventually. And bar the Birmingham game, Barnsley have been really poor on the road this season. So everything's telling me to go for a Sheffield Wednesday win. They're just starting to get some more attacking players back as well. So Izzy Brown, Jordan Rhodes, Kachunga all came off the bench, which is firepower at Championship level. It's just not clicking. I don't really understand what's going on there. I thought it was going to turn by now, and it could make a mockery of our Sheffield Wednesday predictions. But despite Barnsley being the side in better form and they're winning midweek, I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday to nick it by 2-1, though I have no idea where Sheffield Wednesday's 2 are coming from.
Yeah, I agree. Probably from a set piece, because that's what he's good at. But I do think they're going to get one as well in this game. But I think Barnsley are going to get 2. Because obviously I think Barnsley, attacking-wise, are better. Obviously, different style, clinical. I think they're going to do that as it's a Yorkshire derby. They'll be up for this game. So 2-1 Barnsley. And the final game is 2 teams that were in League One last season. It's Wycombe Wanderers versus Coventry City. Coventry, they're missing Matt Godden, and it's clearly they do miss him badly, Coach.
They do miss him badly. I mean, the Rotherham game, it started to look promising, didn't it, with the 2 up top?
The game was rubbish. Coventry was rubbish.
Oh, it was an awful game. It wasn't helped by a referee, I did say, who was very... I don't really criticise referees, but he was very whistle-happy for both sides, and it didn't help the flow of the game. Yeah, Luton were protecting defensively because they were so depleted. It was a strange old game, and it didn't deserve to be won by either side. I don't think Coventry will put goals past Wycombe, and I feel Wycombe's style of play might be the one that ends the Coventry run. But you've got to say, Coventry unbeaten in 6 for a side that's come up is a pretty remarkable run. What I would say to the fans is, like, when I've seen it both after the Derby game and the Luton one, saying, we should be winning these sorts of games. I mean, let's have a bit of perspective, because Coventry, it looks like, are going to stay up against my better judgment. So fair play to them. But I think Wycombe are going to get back to winning ways in this. They haven't won in a while, 6 games without a win, but they're scoring goals and they'll shore it up at the back this week. So another terrible game for Coventry to be involved in. It's going to be 1-0 to the host, Wycombe Wanderers.
Charlie?
Yeah, no, I've got to back Wycombe. I think they've only lost 1 in the last 5 at home. Coventry is still winless in the last 5 away from home. I mean, you could say, like we were saying earlier, is this the time that it breaks? But I do think Wycombe are definitely stronger at home. I think they'll have too much for them. I don't know. I do fancy Tyler Walker, though, to pick one up. So I'm going to have to go 2-1 Wycombe. I think Wycombe will win, and I think they'll be a bit more free-flowing, possibly another Joe Jacobson penalty. I know you really enjoyed that the other night, Craig.
This probably would be the perfect game for Wycombe to stop their rot, to be honest. Do I think Wycombe will get anything out of this game? Probably not. I think Coventry might sneak this one. I don't think it'll be the greatest of games. Wycombe will probably get something on the set piece, but I think Coventry will just do enough with a 2-1 win. And let's have a quick recap of just what we predicted. It was 7 1-1 scores. Championship favorite scoreline. That probably won't happen this Saturday. Charlie thinks Nottingham Forest will beat Brentford 2-0. Cody's going for a gamble of a 3-2 Brentford win against Nottingham Forest. And just one game that me and Coda copied each other.
Copied each other? You bolt.
And those are our predictions. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down below and give us your predictions on this weekend's Matchday action. Give this video a like, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter @HonestFootball3. And we'll see you next time.